Hi and welcome to today's masterclass. Today we're going to do a little bit of mixed media. Now hopefully you'll have all of these materials at home, so you'll be able to complete this. You may or may not have some charcoal, so depending on whether you want to do it in charcoal, you need to go and buy some if you haven't got some. Or what you can do is do it just in paint or whatever other medium you want to have a go at. But today we're going to use this portrait of Gwen John, who is a very famous Welsh female artist. And she was very prolific a good few years back. And a lot of her work is in the Glenvivian Gallery in Swansea, so if you fancy going to have a look at some of her work, then go down there. It's open, even during lockdown they have safe viewing, so go and have a look. And we're going to use this as a guide to what we're going to do with our mixed media piece. What I wanted to do was I wanted to show you how to work on top of some newspaper. So you can see this is a picture of a profile, and it's been done on top of book pages, and I think probably it's been done with paint, this one, but we're going to use charcoal. All right, so what you need to do is find a board of some sort. I've done it on the back of this sunflower painting that we did recently. Just a board of any kind. It can be the back of a sketchbook, it could be a piece of old cardboard box, it could be a bit of wood. You can do it onto paper if you haven't got any of those things. Sorry, just having a slurp of tea. And what you need to do is just adhere a couple of sheets of newspaper to the board using PVA or Pritt stick or something like that. Be aware of what it says on the newspaper. It might be that you can find something that's relevant to an artist, or something that's relevant to today. How I changed history, she changed history, so I thought that would be quite good. It's actually about metal detecting, but you know, it doesn't matter. But it's quite nice to have something that's relevant to the image. You don't have to use newspaper, you can use music paper, you can use old maps. That's really nice, looks really good. You could just use coloured paper, it's up to you, but make sure it's well stuck down. Stick it down from on the back, but also put a coat of PVA over the top. I tend to water down my PVA so it's a bit thinner, so it goes on a bit easier. I'll put it on with a brush, but just make sure that you wash your brush immediately after. Okay, and I've drawn out a rough outline of Gwen John's face, but I'm going to erase it now. I just want you to see we're working on portrait, not landscape. I just wanted you to see whereabouts I'm going to position it. And the next thing to do is to take some charcoal. I've got some compressed charcoal, I show you here. You can use normal charcoal. This tends to go a bit blacker. And you're going to rub this all over the, don't worry if it breaks. It's very delicate, it's charcoal. You could use black chalk from a children's chalk set if you've got one of those. You could just use coloured chalk or pastel if you wanted to. You don't have to use black, it's up to you. It just is very effective on black. All right, I've got a little bit sticking up there, but I'm not worried about that. That'll become part of her clothing. So get loads and loads of this stuff on. It needs to be dark because you're going to rub away the face of Gwen John to reveal it from the black charcoal. You'll see that in a minute. It's a really lovely, effective technique. And, you know, it's not something that is restricted to charcoal. Now, I don't mind getting my hands dirty. You might not like it very much. It's up to you. You can use your hands to rub it in, or you can use a piece of tissue paper or toilet roll if you don't like using your hands. That is just as effective, but it does take it off a bit more than your fingers. So I tend to use my fingers. Okay, so just rub it in. And you, like I said, you need to get it really, really, really dark, almost black if you can. So I tend to put a layer down, rub that in, and then go back in and put another layer on top. It's really messy, but just enjoy the mess, you know. We tend to do an awful lot of watercolour painting in these tutorials, and sometimes it's just nice to get in a state. Especially at this moment in time where you can have built up frustrations because of being kept in. It's a nice medium to work with. So just keep rubbing and rubbing and rubbing until you are happy with the surface that you've created. Now you can wash your hands off if you want to. I'm just going to dip mine in my painting bowl and just wipe off a little bit. And I've got a cloth here. Your hands will remain black, but you can wash them off later. Okay, and the next, you can blow off a bit of the powder. So the next thing to do is to sort of try and visualise where Gwen John's face is going to be in your picture. You can do her small like this, or you can make her bigger. It's up to you. And we're going to take a putty rubber, and I'm going to break a bit of my putty rubber off because I don't want the whole thing to become really filthy. And it will do. It will become really dirty if you're not careful. So break a bit off. You can use normal rubber, but again, it gets really dirty. So just be aware of that. So we're going to look at removing most of this sort of shape around here, which is the contour of her face. Okay, so we're just going to rub away at that contour. Now, to begin with, you'll find that it doesn't come off very easily. And you'll think, oh my God, it's so messy. But don't give up, right? It's a really nice thing to do. And if you find yourself getting in a state, then just take a break, go and have a cup of tea and come back to it. And just carry on making little marks like this. You can see I'm just rubbing away. If I put her face there, you might be able to see then what I'm looking at. So whenever your putty rubber gets really dirty like this, you just pick off a bit and you go back in and you just start to remove a bit more. And you just continue doing this until you get some of the form coming out. So I've gone for the left hand side of the face because, sorry, the right hand side of the face, because I can see that that is where most of the light is coming and hitting. So around here, up on the right hand side of her face there, like that. Okay, keep picking off that rubber so that you end up with a different shape and a clean area to work with. Just keep removing carefully, observing what you're looking at. You can always put some of the marks back in if you erase them by accident. And we're just going for the look of Gwen John here. You know, if she starts looking like somebody else, then it doesn't matter. This is about the technique more than getting an absolute likeness of this person. So you can see I'm just closely observing where the light is falling. The rubber's getting a bit dirty again. I'm removing sections, and slowly you'll see the face coming out of your picture. She's got straight neck, very straight neck, and it's very, very light on that side, so I can really go in and remove a lot of the charcoal from that section. And this is where, when you start really getting into the removal of the charcoal, is when you start seeing bits of newspaper coming out. Now her neck, she's got a collar on, so you need to leave that black. However, under the collar we've got a lighter item of clothing, so what you want to do is just rub that in a little bit, but leaving it quite dark. Don't remove too much of that. Okay, into the eyes again, into the head again, should I say. Her hair is, there's a highlight here, so I'm going to just rub away the highlight. I want to show you what it would look like if you used a rubber. So here I've got a normal rubber. It might be that you find that the normal rubber is actually more effective because you can lean into it a bit more. Can you see, like that? But like I said, the only thing is that it's difficult to get rid of that now. You'd have to go and wash it, or you can cut it off. So round with the normal rubber where her hair comes down. So it's almost like you're drawing with the rubber, but you're looking for the highlights to begin with. You want to get rid of those the lightest of marks, leaving the dark marks behind. Can you see how I'm going with that? So the lightest part of the whole picture is her face. So you can remove most of it, but her face is not white. Remember, blow it off every now and again. It's not white. I mean, it looks white, but it's not white. It's skin colour. So you don't want to remove it completely. You want some tone to be left behind. So into that area, down the nose, like that, round. She's got a funny nose, and that is because she's sort of got her head slightly tilted back. So that's giving you a funny angle. It's showing you more of her top lip than you would, the area above her top lip, than you would normally see. There's a sort of angle from below looking upwards. So there's the chin coming out at us now. You can see the portrait coming out and really starting to come to life. You can chop up these rubbers if you've got a Stanley knife like this. Carefully just slice a bit off, and then you can sort of get little, I don't know whether you can see what I'm doing, no. You sort of slice it into pointed bits like that, and then you can get right in and really get those eyes out, the whites of the eyes anyway, in there, like that. So she's got white on both sides, but like I said, you just need some patience with this. It's a challenging technique. Have a go, and like I said, if you're going to get frustrated, just have a break and then come back to it. But you can see there that the eyes have started coming forward as a result. Again, with the smaller rubber, you can really go in and just look at those fine details. They're all very much describing what is happening to the surface of her face. So it's really important that you observe really carefully what is going on in those areas of her face where the light is falling. We do a lot of this, we use this technique a lot in life drawing, mainly because it stops you from being fussy. People tend to sort of get a bit tense and uptight with pencils and detail. So what this does, it stops you from being too obsessed with detail. And really, if you get something that looks like a face, you should be happy. Again, don't worry if it doesn't look like Gwen John. Don't worry if you lose bits of black area, like I've got a little bit here where I could probably put a bit of the collar back in. Come up to the top of the head. We've got the highlight here for this area. We've got her parting, and then we did a little we used this technique recently in class, and we created a picture of a Welsh miner, and that went down really well. Everybody really enjoyed it, but part of the process was just getting used to the mess. Right, so the side of her head comes round, and then it comes into the ear, so her hair comes down there like that, and then there's a dark patch, and then there's the ear around there. So her ear is lighter, so we'll rub that away a bit. Okay, so you're getting the idea. I'm going to put this on time lapse now and really go into it. All right, so you can watch it sped up. Okay, so here we have the portrait more or less finished. You can see that there's not the best of likenesses. We're not really going for a likeness here because this technique is quite difficult to get really fine details. So just be happy that you've got something that looks like a face, a portrait coming out at you. I just went in with, I cut a bit of rubber off, and I've just gone in with lines here just to describe a little bit of the tartan that's on her dress. You can remove some of the background if you'd prefer to have more definition. However, what will happen is that if you remove the background, the face will disappear back into the rest of the work. So just be aware of that. It's the technique that we're looking for at the moment. You can break down your charcoal so that you've got some pointed ends on them, but you can also use this charcoal, which is willow charcoal. It's not as dark as the compressed charcoal that I've got there, but however, it does help you to make little fine details. So like there's a mark there which is a bit heavy for me, so I'm just going to soften it in, because this is the other thing you can do, is just soften details in with your fingers. But if you did want to put a line somewhere, you could use your compressed charcoal and you'll get a finer but lighter edge to it. Can you see, like that? I'm just going to rub that out because that's not in the right place. But if I was, say, for example, there's a little shadow coming on her forehead here, which is being cast from her hair, I think, along there like that. So do you see what I mean? You've got a finer line with your compressed, with your willow charcoal, and you can soften it a little bit easier. It's not as hard as the compressed. She's also got earrings in, so what's difficult is to get something like an earring, as this bit here is a little bit dark, so I'm just going to remove a bit of that. I'm going to take my bigger rubber actually and remove a bit of that round where her ear is. When you set up, make sure that you don't have anything on your table. Put some newspaper down. It's very dusty and you get in a mess. So set up with a nice clear space and lots of newspaper down so that you don't get dust everywhere. So you can sort of fiddle around and try and get some definition on that earring, but it's quite difficult to see even on here on this painting. So just, you know, be kind to yourselves and just put the odd line here and there, and that will give you the idea that there's an earring there. Okay, you can use your willow charcoal just to fine things down if you need to put some detail on, like around this brooch, which I did attempt to do a face on. And again, just let me blow it again. You can do some mark making in there to suggest a face shape if you have a big enough area to work in, that is. All right, but just a suggestion, don't try and put eyes and things like that in because it just won't work. This medium is far too soft to enable you to do that sort of thing. So just be aware of how the medium works. All right, just add little touches here and there. I've made her eyes ever so big, so just that is a thing that happens with faces. You tend to make them bigger than they actually are, and that eye is a bit weird, so I'm just going to try and solve that. She had a big almost bag underneath that eye, so I'll just put that back in by just putting in a very gentle mark underneath that eye. That's not too bad now. That's dark in there. So you can, you know, you can play around with this and you can make your eyes bigger and smaller and da-da-da, but it is quite difficult, like I said, just to get detail. Like I said, just get something looking like a face and you should be happy. You could try something simpler if you wanted to start with. You could do a bowl of fruit or something like that and have a go at a simple shape like an apple or an orange and just get in the structure of a three-dimensional object first before you attempt a portrait. But sometimes it's just nice just to have a go, you know, just go for it and see how you get on. Now, like I said, this is very messy. Clean up with a rag, make sure you clean your hands. They do stain a little bit, but a couple of washes and it'll be sorted. Can't do anything about your putty rubbers. You just have to throw the really black bits away. And you can wash your big rubbers, but they will remain a little bit grey, but they'll still wash up okay. All right, store your charcoal somewhere where it's not going to get damaged. Usually comes in boxes and things like this. All right, if you want to introduce a bit of colour, there's no reason why you shouldn't. Next time, maybe you can attempt the same portrait, but in coloured pastels, and just see how you get on with the addition of a little colour. You know, there's no reason why you couldn't put a little bit of red on her tartan dress, for example. That would be quite nice. If you really struggle with details in the eyes, there's no reason why at the end you couldn't take a charcoal pencil, a pastel pencil, and sharpen it really fine and get into those details. It really depends how detailed you want to go with this. All right, so to fix it, because this surface is a movable surface, which is beneficial at times because you might want to come back and do extra work to it and all that sort of stuff. But if you're done and you're finished and you love it, then you can fix it with hairspray. Just a light spray of hairspray, or you can get fixative proper stuff, and that works in the same way. But you can see how effective the newsprint is as it comes through the paper. and reveals itself. All right, have a go. Let me know how you get on. Like I said, you don't have to do a portrait. You can do something else, but it is very satisfying, and it's a really good technique. The idea of thinking about the highlights primarily, but it's almost like negative paint, positive and negative spaces. It makes you look very differently at your subject, and see things in shapes and forms rather than looking at it as a thing, as a portrait. You're looking more at what is that mark, how does that mark work, and all that sort of thing. So it's a really good learning exercise. Okay, enjoy. If you do produce some pictures, take a picture, email it to me, text it to me, whatever you want to do. I will eventually put a whole load on Facebook and possibly introduce some into my YouTube videos and things like that. But hope you have a lovely time doing this. Next week, I think we might be doing, let me just look, what have we got? Oh, well, I've put trees and snow down, so it might be a snowy type thing. All right, see you next week.